welcome to Camp Chats. This is part of our virtual camp fair week, and I am managing editor Hillary Bird. I'm here with Jennifer Rosinia. She's a senior instructor at Erickson Institute who is going to help us today understand the benefits of camp and how it helps expand the interests and new interests of our kids. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you, and you're in such a beautiful camp atmosphere. This is so wonderful. So how does learning at camp differ from a kid's experience learning in school?
I think that's a great question. So if we start off by thinking about traditional schools, and I have to do a little sidebar, I think we're learning a lot more than we ever have. So I would like to think that maybe traditional schools are beginning to change. And a lot of people in the camp world would really like to see school be more like camp, because, in a traditional school, there are academic outcomes, and we're learning through books, and children are expected to stay seated for most of the time. And if we're honest, relationships really aren't prioritized, nor is a child's happiness. That kind of comes pretty low on the totem pole. And kids are spending a lot of time indoors, and things like art and music and sports are add-ons, right? They're more seen as incidental, and teachers direct the learning. They set the goals, they choose the activities. And for sure, play is seen as a distraction, and it's not always valued.
Right.
Camp, on the other hand, kids get to learn by doing. They really get to drive the ship in so many ways, and relationships are priority. And happiness is like one of the top goals for counselors. When we think about learning in school, it's kind of a specific domain of learning or development, but at camp, there's this whole child, experience that play and movement and spontaneity are expected and encouraged, and art and music and sports, they're commonplace, and being outdoors is the norm, which is why I chose to meet you outdoors, where still traditional school is indoors.
Right.
So those are some of the differences.
No, that's fantastic. I love that idea of looking at it from the perspective of fun learning versus school learning and textbook learning. And we have to know and understand these things for you to advance to the next grade versus, we want to make sure that you understand, especially, when you go to an overnight camp, they make you set the table for your whole cabin, and help prepare dinner and help get everything ready. And so it's a different skill set that looks at the whole of learning as a human being versus, okay, we're going to know this set core knowledge, and then you're going to go on to the next grade that's going to teach you this set core knowledge.
Absolutely. I love to think about that camp. Also, there's dignity and risk. Right? That kids are afforded opportunities that they can try that they've never tried before, and the consequences or the other side of it's not that serious. Like we're not getting a grade, right? There's no set external standards. I mean, can you imagine if school said, your goal for this year is to be happy and make some friends?
It's funny, but it would be lovely.
No, absolutely. And I think, at least, I teach at the Erickson Institute, so we look at early childhood a lot, and I think there are some wonderful shifts in our appreciation of the role of, enjoyment and relationships and total body experiences. So, and being outdoors.
That's wonderful. Why is it's so important for kids to learn and develop those interests that they find and they learn at camp, but developing those separate from the interests of their parents, the interests of their family, and why is that so much more important in those kinds of things that they can get at camp?
So I'm an eternal camper, so I have to frame this in the mindset that I am totally on team camp over here. And I get concerned when we use the word separate from parents, because when kids go to camp, they're taking their parents with them, their support and their love. We've got that in their pocket, but there's this disconnect
Mhm.
that's really kind of, one of my favorite words is delicious, right? There's something really nice about the fact that camp counselors really don't have the same vested interest as a
Mhm.
parent does. So a kid is able to try on new opportunities without all of that need to succeed and to make the parents proud, right? That they can they can make friends that they wouldn't normally make. There's this diversity of kids that come to camp that they may not have access to in their everyday kind of lives, right? That camp has children kind of flexing their self-confidence in a way we wouldn't see at home. They
Mhm.
have to be responsible for themselves. There's a sense of timing. You mentioned earlier about setting the table and preparing the meals. And while we might do some of that at home, there's just a different kind of communal working with others, cooperation that we just don't always get at home. And then, as you mentioned, going to camp really does afford children the opportunity to try on things that may not be their parents' interests or their family's experiences. So it expands their horizon in a way that we just really don't see often happening at home. We look at things like self-confidence and emotional intelligence and those kinds of language. There was a study that came out of Canada, kind of, it's a little bit older now, but they really looked at kids who attend overnight camp experiences, and they really developed these healthier attitudes towards physical activity like swimming and hiking and things that the parents of the kids just really didn't necessarily prioritize at home. So
Oh, uh-huh.
the list goes on, but there's lots of reasons to let kids kind of build that little pulling away and becoming their own person.
Oh, that's awesome. How can parents then help foster that and facilitate it when camp is over? What kinds of things, once my kid comes back from camp, what kinds of things can I do to help foster those new interests? Even hope, even if it is horseback riding, and we're in a big city, what can we do to foster some of those interests that are within our realm as a family?
Yeah, so was, first of all, let the kids tell you stories. A lot of times when kids come home from camp, they're camp sick. We always think about being homesick, but when kids go to camp and they make these friends and they have these intense experiences, let them sleep it off, get some rest when they first come home, but then let them tell stories. Maybe
Mhm.
print out pictures and display them somewhere at home. Let them teach you things that they learn, whether it's a computer camp or it's making a fire somewhere in a park or in your own backyard, like we have the luxury of doing here. Um, Teaching you songs, letting them teach you what they learned. But then, of course, you could always kind of, search around and see, are there clubs? Are there social groups? Is there something on social media that I can hook my child into? Can we do some sort of research together? But even staying in touch with the friends that they made is
Mhm.
another nice way that parents can continue that. Maybe starting a fund and saving up for next year's camp, making connections through social media. There's all kinds of ways, but I think just being present with your child and listening to their stories and learning camp songs, or show me this recipe, show me this computer program, tell me what the horse felt like when you were on its back, right?
That's
Just
a
being
great.
present with the child.
Oh, yeah, that's such a wonderful idea. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for all of your help today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Go camp.